2. We good with the sound? Online. 1 2 1 2. We good with the sound? Great. Good morning, comrades, our colleagues from the media, civil society organization, social justice organization. Thank you and welcome to today's press briefing. We are at the moment where, hunger and poverty is central to what is happening in the country, whether it's fires in Togoza and I think to the members of the media today, we feel it's very important. One aspect of the importance is we can demonstrate that we can tackle our problems by challenging power and building power through radical solutions, but peaceful, non-violent organizing, because we don't have to chase people who were not born in these borders because there's hunger. And we cannot turn against each other because of our social ills. So I think the Union Against Hunger and the brilliant speakers that we have here, look on, are crucial to unpacking why a day like this is significant in building the momentum to end hunger in this country. And we can demonstrate that the hunger can be ended with peaceful, vigilant though, but peaceful measures to build power and to challenge power. Because a country such as ours, we shouldn't be talking about the levels of hunger we are having. So this is urgent. It's as urgent as running to cover when people are chasing others. But this is more urgent because it's a fabric of organizing, of mobilizing and building power in a legitimate way, and rather than scapegoating our problems. So I won't talk much. We've got brilliant speakers this side of the room, and we'll allocate enough time and to take questions online for all the people who are online. So I'm gonna be nitty-picky in the panel here and keep everyone to 5 minutes at least. We'll have another round. So don't say it all. Have your first reaction and what you will have wanted to say the first thing when you woke up in the morning. So I'll start on my left. My name is Nzama Mbaladi. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Healthy Living Alliance, that is HEALA. On my left, where I will start with my comrade. We're coming back from activism of HIV and health, from the Treatment Action Campaign, that is Bongile, who's the chairperson of the Treatment Action Campaign, to get us set, because we learn a lot from tech, that poor people can build real power to change system, to change operations, to start on how then tech see itself in the struggle for hunger. In as much as people are taking treatment for TB, for HIV, how do we ensure that people aren't hungry? So we want to get the perspective. I'm not putting words on your mouth in terms of the Treatment Action Campaign as one of the organizations that I would call it's the leader of society, have branches, across provinces and where poor people are living. So I will hand over to your leadership.
Good morning. As I'm introduced, I'm Sibongile Chabalala Madlala. I'm the National Chairperson of Treatment Action Campaign and the person openly living with HIV. I'm putting this out so that everyone knows that I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just reading it. And as Nzama just said, as the Treatment Action Campaign, we set an example to say we can fight our government, we can fight for the right. We fought for HIV denialism, and today we are talking about more than 6 million people on treatment. Although those people are on treatment, but we still have challenges. We cannot treat a hungry nation. The nation is very hungry. We are still living in a space where we have to fight for our lives and food. You have to decide to say, am I eating or am I going to the clinic? So that is not just a choice. That is a danger to our nation. That is the violation of rights of the people on the ground. where a mother needs to think to say, I take these 20 rands and buy a loaf of bread, or I and then go to the clinic and get life-saving medication. We have children who are born with HIV, who are still struggling, who don't have enough to eat. As we are meeting here, we are meeting in a very right place, in a wealthier suburbs, where everyone, I believe, who stays around here can afford food. But we are talking about the nation that cannot afford a loaf of bread. Food pricing, it's very high. Petrol hikes are putting us in a down moment as a country. Nzamat rightfully said that we are fighting each other now. We are chasing our own in our own continent because of hunger. But we cannot only blame hunger. Politicians need to take responsibility. They are the ones who are behind these xenophobic marches and everything that is happening. And they are supporting them, even though they are saying they are not. We see them. On the social media, the T-shirts of political parties are there. And they don't want us to deal with the issues that affects us. In South Africa, we have a lot of money that goes to corruption. And that money can support so many people. That money can ease a pain from a lot of people on the ground. We have people we are losing them on treatment. We are talking about the 90, which we are unable to meet. The second 90, it's a very challenging one. Non-adherence. Why? Because I have to choose. If I take my medication on an empty stomach, or I try to get food. So it's not a matter of a choice that I want to default on treatment. But there are other social needs that I need to take all care of. Food, it's very expensive. Basic vegetables are very expensive. We can't even get organic food very cheap. We have to buy all this processed food, which are causing more harm to us. Mostly as people living with HIV, we know that our immune system is compromised. We are aging now with HIV. We are starting to see other chronic illnesses attacking us. But because we don't have enough food, we don't eat nice nutrition, we are unable to survive. So with these few minutes, because you said I mustn't finish everything, I will stop here for now so that I can get my second round. Thank you.
Thank you, leadership. I'll move right along. Please, online, if you have questions, the people who are moderating, they can pick those questions. If you have a question about one speaker that have spoken or everyone has spoken, please jot those questions so that we are able to address to them. So I'll move along. Masien Gegunobala Jigelel, the General Secretary of Staff 2, on my far left, to get his first reaction to Lenda Yokulamba Gabantu Nowul.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning to dear comrades in the panel and dear guests. Good morning to the members of the media. And firstly, thank you very much for coming over here defiantly to come and talk about poverty and hunger, the deprivation, the suffering, silent suffering of millions and millions of people. And we are glad that the media is here because normally this is one area in our society that is being discarded and is being sidelined on a daily basis as a non-issue when it affects the overwhelming majority of the people who go to bed on an empty stomach and who are hungry every day. So let me first, Chairperson, read what we've prepared. As workers, our starting point will always be the lived experiences of the working class. We do not analyze hunger from the boardrooms. We analyze it from the factories, from the factory floors, from mine shafts, from the farms, warehouses, hospitals, classrooms, taxi ranks, and the working class homes. And what are workers telling us today? They are telling us that even when they have jobs, they cannot survive. This is the era of the working poor. Workers wake up at 4 a.m., they travel long distances, they work exhausting shifts, they build this economy with their labor, yet at the end of the month, they cannot afford food. The latest Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group figures show that the average household food basket now costs over 5,400 rands a month, whilst a basic nutritious basket costs around 6,600 rands a month. Yet the national minimum wage translates into roughly between 4,800 and 5,800 a month, depending on hours worked. In other words, a minimum wage worker or a worker earning a minimum wage cannot even afford a basic, nutritious food basket before paying for transport, electricity, rent, schools' uniforms, and debt. The PMBEJD shows that the electricity and transport alone consumes 58% of the national minimum wage of many workers before food is even bought. Now compare this to the social grants. The child support grant is roughly 560 rands per month, nearly 300 rand below the food poverty line of 855 rands, and far below the estimated 965 rands needed monthly to feed a child a basic nutritious diet. The SRD grant remains a scandalous 370 rands a month, barely enough to survive for a few days in today's economy. This means millions of unemployed people and mothers are expected to survive on grants that are nowhere near the actual cost of food. That is institutionalized hunger. And the rest of what we say daily is simply devastating. Research shows that millions of households are now forced to reduce the meal size, skip meals, and remove nutritious food such as meat, eggs, and vegetables, and fruit from their diets because they simply cannot afford them. More than 11 million South Africans survive below the food poverty line of 855 rand per person a month, less than 28 rands a day. Just imagine, less than 28 rands a day. Nearly 1 in 3 children under the age of 5, or roughly 28.8% of our kids, are stunted because of chronic malnutrition. The Department of Health records around 1,000 child deaths linked to malnutrition every year. Think about this very carefully. Children are dying from hunger and malnutrition in one of the richest countries in the African continent. At the same time, food prices continue escalating. Maize meal, cooking oil, and the basic staples have risen dramatically in recent years, whilst vegetables, potatoes, and proteins continue becoming unaffordable to the poor households. And while workers and the unemployed suffer, corporate executives continue enriching themselves. The CEO of Shoprite Checkers reportedly earns more than 87 million rands every year, while many retail workers cannot afford the food basket they pack or transport or sell to the customers. This is not merely inequality, this is organized economic violence. The rich speak about market confidence while workers speak about empty pots. And we must be honest, this is the crisis that did not fall from the sky. By the way, many of us will speak here about South Africa being a food secure country. We're not a country that have not enough to produce for its people, but the food that is being produced cannot be consumed and or the majority cannot afford it. And let's speak honestly, again, this is as a result of decades of neoliberal policies. This is privatization, deindustrialization, casualization of workers. This is labor brokering, wage suppression, austerity, and the destruction of decent work. Permanent jobs have been replaced with precarious labor. Young people have been abandoned into an economy of unemployment and hopelessness. Today, South Africa has one of the highest levels of youth unemployment in the whole world. That's why in the SAFTU Section 77 demands, we make a call for a massive public investment in youth unemployment programs, in apprenticeships, in artisan training, industrialization, and socially useful public works to give young people work, skills, and a hope instead of the current despair. And comrades, because those in power fear the anger of the hungry masses, they are now encouraging scapegoating. They want poor South Africans to blame immigrants for unemployment and hunger. But workers know the truth. Immigrants did not destroy factories. Immigrants did not impose austerity measures or budget cuts. Immigrants did not create starvation wages. Immigrants did not loot municipalities and state-owned enterprises. The problem is an economic system that places profit above human life. That's why, as SAFTU, we continue the struggle against hunger, and we are very happy that we're part of the Union Against Hunger, because that struggle is inseparable from the struggle for decent work, for a living wage, and for economic justice. We therefore demand an immediate introduction of the basic income grant of 1,500 for the unemployed and the working poor, an increase in all grants at least so that everybody can afford something above the food poverty line. That food prices regulation and action against profiteering must be immediately implemented. Mass public employment programs, support for small farmers and cooperatives and informal traders, an end to austerity, and a comprehensive program of industrialization and decent work creation. We reject a society where workers produce their wealth, but they live in poverty. Thank you.
I knew exactly I won't be able to manage you on time, but I think it's really great that there will also be Q&As, so you can hold him there outside before he runs to other things. Can I come to my right, leadership? from Seri, Sis Nomzam. What is your reaction? Okay, let's put titles as well. Is the director, directors sit next to each other. Yeah. So please, if you can go 5 minutes, please. I can control it because you're my sister.
Okay, I won't even respond to that. I think anyone who's been listening since the beginning of this press conference would be surprised to learn that the right to access to food is protected and enshrined in our Constitution. They'll be even more surprised to learn that the right to basic nutrition is immediately realizable for children in our Constitution. And in fact, for me, when we write the preamble to our Constitution, we speak about us trying to build a country where we will improve the quality of lives of all citizens and free their potential. Yet we must sit here and listen to people saying children under 5, a third of them, are going to have dark futures. They will struggle in school. They will go into low-paying jobs. We're also sitting here listening to the fact that probably over 20% of our country are struggling with hunger. But many people always think that the issues that the organization that I work for at the Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa and many other organizations have been fighting for the realization of socio-economic rights don't understand the real issues, right? People just ask, what does it have to do with the price of bread? And we've heard Mr. Vavi say, the low wages, right, have a direct impact on the price of bread. We've heard Umama Sibongile say, the unavailability of funds, even with social grants, which is one of the things that our country has consistently done for the poor. People can't even maintain their health. And so we ask this question, if indeed we are trying to improve the quality of life of all citizens, how is it that we find ourselves here? And I think for me, I've said this continuously, that even though the Constitution was written by those who are still in government today, it's because that Constitution has been abandoned. The promises that were made to the poor of that improved quality of life, of that freed protection, of that freed potential, has been abandoned. And we sit here today knowing that farm workers will pick the food in the farms and they not have it in their own pots because of that abandoned vision and that abandoned promise that we made to ourselves as a nation. And so as an organization, we work with different groups. I'm happy here to have very important client, member, partner, defender, protector, in Abahlali baseMjondolo. And one of the key things that we discuss in our relationship is the right to access land and the state's failure to provide equitable access to land over time, not just land for housing, but land for livelihoods. And I know that Obab Mongameli will speak more articulately and clearer than I would on how the poor have been solving issues of hunger through planting food themselves, building communes, building community. I also know that it's been the experience of our clients who are the waste reclaimers, that while they are hungry in their homes, they see landfills where food is dumped, and they are prohibited from taking that food by those who manage those landfills. And so when someone says UAH has declared this as Food Justice Week, you must understand it's not justice merely in the legal sense. It's justice also in the moral sense. How can we sit as a country in a situation where people go hungry, where children die, where futures are lost, at a time when we've made a promise to ourselves, at a time when we can afford it, at a time where food is being thrown away? And as Seri, I think I love how Unzama opened earlier on. He spoke about how we believe that people can build power. We believe people can organize to address wage inequality. We believe that people should organize to force the state to manage the rising prices of food. For me, I think one of the biggest tragedies is the fact that the state funds that are given to social grant recipients are taken from them, not in the rands and cents, but in the food that goes into their mouths. So that someone who had a social grant in 2025, in 2024, has less food on their plate today than they did then. And so, again, we want the state to use the stick. It must manage private private power, especially those who are selling food, and the fact that they continue to prioritize profits over our lives and over the futures of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, leadership. Thank you so much. I'm moving right along. Comrades Boo, if you want to come in as Abahlali, Bazem John Dole, in terms of your perspective in the initial reaction, please.
Thank you. Is that okay? Thank you, Program Director. We are very grateful to be here. My name is Bu Zikode. I am the leader of the Shack Dwellers Movement of South Africa, Abahlali Basemjondolo. We live in the most productive economy in human history. However, our communities continue to suffer. Hunger, malnutrition, you name it. You would be surprised that one of the reasons why Abahlali was founded back in 2005 was the fact that I personally experienced a child feeding herself in Petra tins. She was full of worms on her face, eating worms, which we thought she might have thought that it was some kind of a rice. Abahlali was founded out of hunger, anger, and frustration. A baby was feeding herself in the Kennedy Road settlement in Durban, sitting outside your Petratin toilets. It's called VIP ventilated Petratin toilet, which was locked, by the way, until drained. It was even written on its door, it's locked. However, at the back of this Petratin, worms were all over and children were just playing around, feeding themselves with worms. What country can allow such indignity? So we are here not by mistake. We are here because our people, our communities have suffered for far too long and our voices have not been heard. Now, how do we begin to talk about hunger when we have ignored the question of land that produces food? How do we jump into the questions of hunger when we do not even have what it takes to produce food? We are a very angry, traumatized, hungry movement. A movement whose state have not only come to vandalize what we called homes for ourselves, but what they have done over the years, the so-called anti-land invasion unit. They have come, not only confiscated and destroyed our property during arbitrary evictions. What they have done have actually been putting soap into our mill. You can imagine these people are already poor and hungry. Are we not poor enough? Are we not hungry enough? Is the poverty that we see not enough that we can add salt on the wound. Is it not enough that people are hungry? And you destroy their property, you destroy their livelihood, but you also make sure that you put harmful chemicals on their food. What kind of a state is that? This is what we have witnessed. This is a day-to-day lives of people. People's lives are vandalized. Now, we are working to build power. We are working to make sure that land is restored back to its rightful owners. But also so that we can plow, we can plant, we can produce food for ourselves. It is very devastating to hear, to understand that we are able to produce excessive food and we are able to throw out food while there's someone that is hungry. Now, working with abahlali, the shared dwellers movements, not only in urban centers but also in rural areas, people have to struggle every day. Some of them go through trauma thinking about the next meal. What am I going to cook this afternoon? This is what women have to struggle about. Ngizophekani namhlanje? At least men are brave enough to ignore and shy away from those questions and disappear up until it's this afternoon. Yeah, nakhona sebedlile some of them. So that you don't get to face these questions which mostly our women and children faces. So we are here to say these institutionalized poverty can be ended. It calls us all as unions against hunger members. It calls upon progressives, organizations, and everyone to make sure that the billions rands that the CEO of ShopRite Checkers, of Pick and Pay, share. Rich people must learn to share. Our message today is that those who have enough food, have enough salaries, if they want peace and stability in this country, they must learn to share. What we are faced with today, the so-called infamous xenophobia, which we must also clear our position as abahlali. Asihambisani nalento. Umuntu ungumuntu ngabantu. Sithi ngesizulu unyawo alinampumulo. This is what we were raised with. And I can tell you, those people who suffer from hunger, malnutrition, and all kinds of frustration, emjondolo, emakhaya. This is not their agenda. Marching and marching every day is not our agenda, it's not our priority. It's not on the table. We know our enemy, and we must tell South Africans that the frustration that we all see is understood. We know. But we're also we grapple with this question as abahlali. Ubani lo sehlupheke okudlula thina that they can do such things. We are suffering when we have suffered enough. But we are not doomed not to know who's our enemy. So the anger of the poor can be misdirected sometimes. This is what we are confronted with. So the frustration and anger is somehow misdirected, and we must put it clear that we know our enemy and we know the people who are taking away the little that we have. So our message today, we are saying those who have enough, they must learn to share. We can no longer afford to be hungry in the world that has produced more than enough. We live in a most productive economy in human history. We have no reason to go hungry. We have no reason not to have land in our country. We have no reason not to have homes. All the social ills that continue to terrorize our communities calls the state to take responsibility. The state must criminalize poverty. Poverty must be made crime. I'm glad that there are lawyers here Usisi Nomzamo has made it very clear that our constitution does speak to this question, and therefore we are saying those who are responsible to keep us hungry and continue to rise the price of fuel and food in the midst of such poverty are doomed to understand the suffering of people. So I want to conclude in saying we can no longer afford to raise hungry and angry people. We can no longer afford to educate children who cannot even concentrate in their classrooms. We can no longer afford to raise our children who are facing malnutrition, but also who are confronted with a number of diseases which makes them finding it difficult to grow. I thank you.
Thank you, leadership. Over to my leader on my right, Comrade Koketsometo, who's the director at Amandla Mobi.
Households do not live on food alone. As has been said, before anybody goes into a shop to go buy groceries, they have spent money on transport, they have spent money on hygiene products, they have spent on cleaning products. In a country in which black people have been dehumanized and told you are not human for centuries, our vision was a country in which we recognize the inherent dignity of every single person. Can we say that this is realized when a household wakes up in the morning and has to make a decision? Am I keeping my child home from school so that I can afford bread for supper tonight? We are telling our society that the dignity we inherently have because you're a human being is not real. It's not meant to be realized, nor will any effort be made to affirm it. I was listening to Zbu talking about sharing on this question of households not living on food alone. We see the ShopRite turnover. We see the ShopRite CEOs turnover. The lowest paid wages, the lowest paid workers in ShopRite themselves cannot afford a nutritious bread basket because that income and that salary is not going to cover your transport costs, your other costs that you need as a household, and then you are still able to afford a nutritious basket. That is very revealing, that in a country of low wages and exploitation, excessive wages and wealth concentration continues to be the norm. Now, the thing about the lack is that the lack of food and the lack of the things people need to survive every day has other consequences. Just to give you a snapshot of this, at amandla.mobi, we do surveys because cost of living regularly comes up as an issue our members want us to focus on. Some of the reasons people have given for this, or some of the things they share they have had to give up. I'm giving you a snapshot of responses where there are thousands and thousands more. I have had to move in with relatives because I couldn't afford rent and food anymore. And so suddenly, households are becoming much more crowded because people can simply not afford to live on their own. I have had to give up on using taxis because I can't afford it. So women have to leave houses earlier in this unsafe South Africa and walk to where they need to be in order to save that little bit of money for something else. On the same day I receive my grant, I have to complete other household things. By the time I need to buy groceries, I have to take a loan. Our people are becoming indebted as well. And we need to understand that debt and the role debt played in Marikana is not unique to Marikana. It's happening everywhere. And so the consequences and the outcomes are being experienced everywhere we look in this country. Marikana was a microcosm of what is being experienced throughout South Africa. Another comment that was made, when fuel goes up, everything increases, but when it goes down, prices stay the same. People understand the issue of competition, what is not falling, the absence of regulation is experienced in people's everyday lives because of the decisions that households have to make on the daily. And so with that said, we are not only talking about stolen futures, we are talking about stolen presence. That in a country that can feed everybody, millions on a daily basis go hungry. That in a country like this, thousands of children end up in hospitals and dead for malnutrition-related issues. That also has an impact on the healthcare system. So everything, the knock-on impact of this institutionalized disregard of people's fundamental and basic dignity is impacting everything else. And the call here is to say we need to reject it. We need to say this is abnormal. We need to say we cannot do this anymore. We need to say that people's humanity has to be affirmed, not tomorrow, not yesterday, right now, in every way we can. And when people are not faced with those decisions on a daily basis, that's when we'll know we are getting somewhere. Thank you.
We have 10 minutes left. Comrade Leo from FAO, Comrade Mark, can you share that 10 minutes? You quickly, and Comrade said, maybe let me start there. And I not forget you because the 1976 is getting forgotten, right? So let me start by you here. So quickly introduce yourself. Mark, you'll come last, and then Comrade Levo, you'll take over. 5 minutes each.
Okay. Just this.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, God.
Start there.
I looked around when I got in here and I saw I was the oldest of all of you. So that's the advantage. Then I get reminded. Right. I am Seth Mazibuko, and from Seth Mazibuko Foundation, one of the foundations that are leading in the June 16, 1976. And you might all be aware that this is the 50th anniversary of June 16. And not is it only the 50th anniversary, but it is also the 30th anniversary of the very constitution that it cannot feed us. And so we are at that point where this year, as the 50th anniversary, we initiated a campaign called 1976 at 50. At the center of the 1976 at 50, it is the question of hunger. We have decided as the civil society organization that we are going to put this as one of the matters that when we march this year from Orlando West to, we are finishing off the march of 1976. And so when we march from the confrontation corner in Orlando West to Orlando Stadium, and someone is running away, doesn't want to come to Orlando Stadium. One of the biggest placards you will be seeing, you can also bring yours, will be about hunger. So that is why we felt this partnership speaks to what we are fighting against. Secondly, I see the colleague is here. We also are going, and please, Bobaba and everybody, don't beat me up because of this partner, that we are also going to be raising the question of alcohol abuse. Those will be... I call them like this, they are becoming such girls and boys around me. So those will be our key themes as we're marching, we just don't want to take a march as a dance and all those things. It must be centered around issues. So this year that will be there. But again, thank you, sis. Again, we have been taking as the foundation, we have been taking rounds in the country. And our focus has been workshops with school children and at high school level, particularly on what we call courageous conversations for activism. So we have been interacting with learners and learner leaders. It's so sad when we get to about 2-3 weeks back, we were in Limpopo. And it's so sad that the question of hunger, we don't get in any school, my sister, and not find it being central. That our children can even eat poisonous food is because they're hungry. We don't only do these rounds with high schools. We have met, as we were in Limpopo, we met with Univenda, we met with also Limpopo. And again, we get to be told, we've had a lot of interaction recently, also with 6 universities in the Eastern Cape. And I can assure you, this now embarrasses me, that some of the students will go to sell their bodies to fill their stomachs. Be reminded, as we're sitting here, the Minister of Higher Education is giving budget speech. And he has not touched that part. We meet with stories of young women who would say, my mom will send me out to go and sleep with men so that we can eat at home. Now, we're not talking here, South Africans, we're not talking here a story just about, I was talking to someone the other day about this, Mark. He said, no, go to Parliament and take their food and give to the poor. Yes. He said, there are people in Parliament who are eating and get so fat and get so, and get even sick. From overeating. And there are children who are dying of hunger. Where is our conscience as South Africa? Sir, I thought you were going to take this matter to court.
Right, I'll deal with that.
You should.
Mark, let's do that. And I'm trying to say our involvement as the campaign 1976 at 50, by the way, it is a campaign that is also formed of other foundations. We have Tsietsi Mashinini Foundation as part thereof. And we've got other very serious, Sam Zima Foundation. We have Hector Peterson, and all those organizations are under this campaign. And this campaign is this what we are going to be driving, and of course with this union. We want you there because this is where we feel it is another platform where we've got to get the voice of the poor loud, and where we've got to get the voice of the hungry students in institutions of higher learning out there, where we've got to get the voice of those kids who eat your spaza shop next door and eat poisonous food, mainly because they don't have any meal that is decent and they are hungry. Colleagues, I always say, I'm happy that I keep on saying this now as a line. When you have hungry people, you have angry people. We are not going to be dealing with issues that are facing this country as long as our people are hungry. They will go out there in the street and we will then be saying they're vandalizing They are in
Infrastructure.
the shops. They are looting. Why do we loot? And most of the time when we do loot, we loot food. And let me warn this meeting. I said this in one of our meetings and in a workshop. I said in 1976, we brought down Boko stores. We didn't bring down schools. We brought down Boko stores. And we did it with pride. Mainly because our fathers would go and drink in the bottle store and we are not going to eat at home. Park that point. And they were they were well positioned next to a station, railway station. Then you will find a Boko store. By the time ubaba efike endlini, ugqibile lapho, and there's nothing for the kids. And what am I saying to South Africa today? The message with this issue of hunger, we had hoped, even from the conversations that we have been having also with university students. Are they here today? Are they not represented here? Okay, yeah, we have had a conversation also with them. And this matter is actually a matter also that must be tackled at the level of institutions of higher learning. And we are becoming and producing girls and boys who can sell their bodies out of hunger. And I thought today, that's why I was slightly late, I thought the minister was going to address this. Colleagues, before I then stop there, I just thought it will be important that I mention that. And now I speak as a father, a grandfather, and a leader in Orlando East, a GAF. I maybe see some of the Nayelo, they were helping us to fight the question of ESCOM. So these are some of the basic issues that we are saying we've got to deal with. And when you get to then get people to say to express how they feel, they cannot express it with their slip-ons only. They will do it with their boots. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, comrades. Okay, my leader, thank you. My name is Lebohang Panyeko. I'm the head of campaigns and recruitment for the Food and Allied Workers Union, in short, FAO. I think everyone has spoken, actually. I don't want to repeat the same thing, but the comrades are saying, actually, I'm reminded by the comrade from Siri, to say the right to food is a constitutional right. So therefore, our government, it's undermining the constitution. So Union Against Hunger, I think we must take this to Concord, to declare, because if we are also calling for the basic income grant of 1.5, when we are leaving the government to do as they please, they will continue. And I agree with my comrade. I think the issue, if you go to Parliament, every section in Parliament, there's even chefs, not even food. There are chefs daily employed to prepare food for all the politicians that are always there in Parliament. So we must also target also. But as FAO, our biggest enemy, we convened last the campaigns committee of FAO internally to strategize ourselves towards this campaign. As we were sitting, we were saying FAO is organizing farm workers. FAO is organizing retail workers. FAO is organizing in ShopRite and Pick n Pay and other retail stores. And we have taken a decision that we are putting a bold demand to the CEO, who is earning 87 million a month, to give every ShopRite employee a minimum food voucher of 3,000 every month. We have taken that decision. We have noticed that ShopRite, the CEO, with his 87 million that is earning monthly, majority of workers who are employed at ShopRite are employed as temporary employment services. And it is very criminal for the CEO of ShopRite to every Monday give salaries or wages to workers, because they are paying like the apartheid style. Every Monday they are paid those workers who are busy, who are doing what we call the money market, which is more like a bank. When you enter ShopRite, you will think that these people are earning ridiculous amount of money. They are earning 1,200 every Monday through ShopRite. So we are saying as FAO, we are going directly to the door of ShopRite, and we are demanding that every worker of ShopRite must also be paid at least a minimum wage of 15,000 a month. That is FAO's position, and we are going to take, our organizers are on the ground, we are rolling out campaigns and ShopRites, we are recruiting because if we can be able to stop ShopRite, because ShopRite has a responsibility, because they are also, if you go to working class communities and rural areas, ShopRite is a dominant retail store. What is it that they are doing to repay, to give access to the communities that they don't have food, they don't have even your soup kitchens, to show that when they close stores, there will be some stalls to plow back to communities. So as a union that is organizing in the food sector, our biggest enemy is PETA, who we are going to target. And in every store we will be boycotting ShopRite. So there is a plan underway as a union to take this animal called PETA direct. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Mark Hayward. I'm one of the founders of the Union Against Hunger. I just want to make a few comments on what do we do about this disastrous, tragic situation that has been described by the speakers before me. But before I do that, I want to thank the members of the media, as Zwelinzima said, for being here today, because these matters that affect the vast majority of the country, poor people, are so often overlooked. And yet this is probably one of the biggest issues that faces people in this country. And I want to explain to you what you see before you at this press conference. What you see before you at this press conference is a giant that is rising, that is going to solve the food crisis in our country. We are absolutely serious about that. Just in this press conference today, you have heard from two of the biggest social movements in our country, Abahlali and the Treatment Action Campaign. You've heard from trade unions, one of the biggest trade union federations. You've heard from one of the few veterans who can look back to 1976 without any shame and with a clear conscience for the way that he has lived his life and the values that he has stood for. You've heard from Nomzamo and from Koketso, leading two critical movements and NGOs. The Union Against Hunger is a movement of movements. It has no agenda other than to solve the hunger crisis in our country and the determinants, what is driving hunger, landlessness, poverty, joblessness, and so on. Before people start misrepresenting us, we have no political party affiliation. We are a people's movement. We are a political movement that is not a party political movement. Let us just make that very clear as well. And then what I want to say is, what are we going to do? And I'll identify 3 things. You've heard a lot today about ShopRite. We are focusing on ShopRite because ShopRite is the most profitable, the largest employer, the largest footprint, and it makes its profits off poor people. Because poor people take their little wages and their little grants, and they're forced to buy foodstuffs at ShopRite's prices. And in that way, it makes a net profit last year of 7 billion rand, twice the rate of profit of retailers internationally. So there's a reason why we are focusing on ShopRite. The second reason is we've repeatedly said to ShopRite, let's meet and find a solution together. As Spu Zikode said, share the wealth, share the food, share the profits, not just with the stakeholders. But ShopRite has repeatedly spurned us, most recently last week, because ShopRite says they're doing enough. They don't need to meet. We can look at their website, we can look at their reports, they're spending enough money on corporate social investment, there's nothing to talk about. Well, ShopRite will have to talk to this movement, and so will the other food retailers. And tomorrow we are holding 28 different pickets of ShopRite stores in 7 provinces across the country to talk to people, to talk to ShopRite workers, to talk to shoppers, and that's the beginning. It's not the end. So it would be wise for the bosses of ShopRite to come to this table for a serious discussion. The second people that we're focusing on, and you've heard it today, is our government. Nomzamo talked hunger, mass hunger, in the shadow of a right to food. Doesn't make sense. Mass malnutrition of children in the shadow of an immediately realizable right of every child to basic nutrition, which means that every child who is dying and stunted now is a victim of unlawful government by our government, a failure to carry out legally binding obligations to make sure that every child has basic nutrition. And Comrade Zweli got the numbers wrong. It's not 1,000 children who die a year. It's 10,000 children who are dying a year because of malnutrition and diseases that are linked to malnutrition. That is 30 children per day in our rich country with its advanced food system. And as Sibongile said, you know, as the TAC, we fought, our first fight was to prevent HIV infection in babies. And we won that fight within an alliance. But you don't want, well, you do want to protect a child from HIV infection, but you want that child to not then suffer from hunger and from malnutrition. So these struggles are connected. We're saying to government, and we will be picketing the Department of Agriculture on Thursday lunchtime, we're saying to government, why is there no plan to deal with hunger in this country? There is no plan. Believe it or not, the last National Food and Nutrition Security Plan expired 3 years ago. And in a context of mass hunger, there's no plan. And when we wrote to John Steenhuisen, whose department has the responsibility for this plan, he basically told us to go away and that he won't accept our memorandum on Thursday because he says it's not his duty, but it is John Steenhuisen's duty. So we want this national food plan urgently. We want to know who are the members that the president has appointed, because they say they've appointed the members of a council. We don't know who they are. And as the Union Against Hunger, we are going to set up a national hunger or national food council across stakeholders that will fill that vacuum. all stakeholders, including business and food producers. And to answer Seth, we do intend to litigate, particularly on this issue of children. There can be no excuse for 30 children dying a day. And it is nothing other than state failure. It's not difficult to identify malnourished children, to identify families with malnourishment. It's entirely possible. 28% of children stunted by the age of 5, means 28% of children who will go through life disadvantaged, smaller than other children, mentally, cognitively less developed than other children. So today's hunger, I can't remember if it was Koketso who said it's a problem of the present. It is a problem of the present, but it's also a problem of the future that people will carry. And it is black children and it is poor children that are carrying this burden of inequality. So those are some of the things that we are going to do and that we are instituting, and which the partners of the Union Against Hunger are all in agreement with. The last thing I want to say, Comrade Spoo said the state must criminalize poverty. We can no longer afford to raise hungry and angry people. That's right, but instead what is happening at the moment is that poverty and the state are criminalizing the poor. I looked at the latest crime statistics released last week, and every year in our country 40,000 people are arrested for shoplifting. 40,000. So that's 10,000 people every quarter. And I checked with NICRO, the organization that deals with rehabilitation of former prisoners, and they confirmed that 60% of those people are people who are stealing food and people who have no jobs and who are hungry. So criminalizing poverty is already a fact of life. And you just have to think that the rich people are getting away with stealing billions and employing big lawyers to keep them out of prison. But our prisons are probably full of poor people who can't afford to pay bail, who are living in horrible conditions because they were forced to steal. And that, as Koketsa said, is not the South Africa that Seth and many, many others fought for and dreamed of, and that's what we intend to change. Thank you.
I'll use this one. I think we have come to the first round. You know, it's very difficult to stop passionate and affected people from doing anything. So wanted to open the floor. Very brief. And also the press conference of this nature, they are very cool, right? They don't seem as if one is important than the other. You have seen those ones there on the other side where one man show for 2 hours and a half or 3 hours. No, these are slightly different to those. So I think you get to you get the perspective, a broad perspective from quite range of people who are doing important work in this struggle of hunger and inequality and poverty. I don't want to sing the messages because I will seem as if I'm one movement or the other, so of hunger. We want to open this to the floor. If what we're gonna do as an announcement, you know, after this, these leaders will make themselves available, get a story and a unique story out of this as a journalist. Of the country that we are and the ideal country we are fighting and striving to be. So you will be able to have time there outside to interact with the panel. I'm just sharing, so I can assist you and link you to them at personal and political level as well. So questions from the media, quickly, briefly, but you will have a lot of time outside. We have about 10 minutes. to 12 minutes to do this. But outside, we're going to definitely go full blown into speaking to. So you can do by way of raising a hand if you have anything burning. Online, is there anything coming through? Not right now. Good. People online are great. Any question from the media? If you ask a question, quickly introduce the media group you're representing. I'm checking. It's not a must to have a question. Don't feel obligated. Okay. Oh, there's a hand.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and to all of the members of the panel and everybody here today. I thought I'd steal the opportunity from the media. I represent civil society today. My name is Kashifa Answer, and I'm the project lead for the DG Murray Trust Rethink Your Drink campaign. And I really want to echo the sentiment around alcohol and it becoming a key feature in our campaigning, especially as it relates to the issues of hunger. In the State of the Nation address this year, the President made clear that South Africa is going to be committed to reducing our stunting outcomes by 2030. And one of the key drivers of stunting in our country is unfortunately alcohol. Prenatal alcohol exposure is a major, major challenge in South Africa. We have the highest rate of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder in the world. So you're looking at children being born with really adverse birth outcomes, being born underweight. And when a child is born lower than the average birth weight, getting them to that ideal birth weight is an uphill battle for many mums. So for us, we want to redesign what that prevention looks like. So when you're advocating for things like increasing access to funds for food with the social support grants, I want to ask you to also push for a maternal support grant that not only supports mums once they have children, but supports them when they are pregnant as well. And there's another issue of cost that I want to address today. National Treasury is currently in a process to review excise taxes for alcohol in South Africa. It happens every 10 years. And next month, we have an opportunity to sit around the table like this and ensure that National Treasury is going to increase the price of alcohol by increasing excise taxes and by implementing a floor price below which no unit of alcohol can be sold. And a lot of people say, well, why bother increasing the price of alcohol when the issue here is food? Because the choice is not only food over transport or food over the clinic, but it's a bottle of beer over a loaf of bread. We must make sure that access to alcohol in our communities is properly managed, especially in low-income communities, so that we can free up financial capacity for things like food and healthcare. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, DJMT, for that great input. I'm checking from the floor. Journalists are probably overwhelmed with what's going on. Oh, there's a question. It's a comment. Not a journalist either.
Has actually not changed. I'm sure that people that were walking and the young people that were marching in 1976 would be shocked if they would rise up today to see the number of what we call now taverns and liquor establishments in black communities. And now, unfortunately, they are now even in rural South Africa. And we cannot separate these two things, the hunger and from the issues of alcohol. And we are saying, together with Union for Hunger, let us look at all these things as connected and not separate them. Because whenever we separate them, our government then just focuses on one and lets go of the other. Whereas both these things, they are affecting our communities in a terribly bad way. We need to be talking about these two issues and talking about them as loud as we can. And as civil society, we are also joining the South Mazibuko Foundation on the 16th of June to say, let us all come together and walk and march and bring our elders and bring everybody on board to talk about this issue and talk about it both as two things, hunger and alcohol. We cannot allow a situation of beer halls that used to exist in 1976 and they were banned in 1976. But it was like when they were banned, they then rose up in even multiples. And we need to then be talking about that. And also to support the National Treasury. The issue of money, we cannot run away from. We need the money for the food. And National Treasury needs to then put that money that is from that excise tax that they are going to increase on alcohol towards the food as well. And that is what we are saying. And we are indeed supporting Union Against Hunger in this regard. Thank you.
I'm kidding. I can see Nomsama. You want to briefly, quickly, to go for. Is there end? Okay, let me go for that end then.
This is not a question, but more of a request. Mark, you highlighted the program of action, talking about what's happening tomorrow at ShopRite. Can you just share that with us so that, for future coverage, if we wanted to be at some of those events and pickets, we could attend them? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll send it to her. 11 o'clock. I've got
Commit to the plan, to submit the whole plan of action for this campaign. So now can we commit to share with the journalists who are here and the media broadly of the whole plan, so that media is able to know what is happening where. Are we closing? We are in closing. We're trying to keep to time so that we can go manage fires out there, right?
So I just wanted to acknowledge what you said about the presence and where they are located, right? Because I think part of the thing with gambling and with alcohol and many of the vices in our society, the impulse is to treat them as a personal vice, the failure of the individual. These are public health crises, right? And also the role of the conditions we live in that also give birth to them. So as a little bit of an example, right? We are seeing that gambling, people are turning to gambling not as a leisurely pursuit, but to supplement their incomes, and. So we have now over 50% of working people who are trying to supplement their income. That is telling us something about the state of wages, And so I just want to emphasize, because sometimes it can so easily become that a poor person is inherently bad and much more likely to do things. These are by design, right? Where these liquor companies are set up, how they are not regulated in certain areas, and so on. And also, just to escalate, just a little bit about what Mark had said. This thing, and we have to normalize it, is this idea that poor people are so hungry they will steal. We have to locate that correctly, right? Rich people steal. They steal all the damn time. And the conditions we live in are a direct consequence, right? Whether through labor, underpaying, wages, wage theft, whether through not paying taxes, whether through the list goes on and on and on, And so that's where we should actually really, really be focused. I am so tired of very often when we are trying to resolve these issues, we problematize a Thandi and scrutinize her life. John Smith, whose life is built on the back of Thandi, just gets away with living just like that.
Thank you. That's actually the perfect way to end, right? And we ending, not ending. Like I'm saying, the comrades, the leaders, they will be here outside. So you can grab them if you want to quickly, do an interview, ask more questions on what they've explained. Because of the limited amount of time, we want to respect you, to do damage control elsewhere as a result of hunger, right? But at least the good story to tell is like they are committed people who live in South Africa who wants to do everything to end this. And there's a lot of rich discussion that came out of this. There are press statements if you want to refer to something. We have a lot of resource material if you want to further inquire electronically, if it helps you, because our news agencies are stretched, right, for resources. You must always justify what's cooking when you went out for a press briefing. So we are happy to assist you to take the story home. If you have set of questions, you want a brief explanation in terms of written responses, or video, like an audio or a video, we're happy. The people who are here are happy to assist us do that. I think I love what also Kokets have said. I'm just abusing my 1 minute because I'm the chair. The chair of committees are always like that, right? Even in parliament. Is that when you locate, whether it's Tinswalo or Tandi, right? You locate them within a context and within an environment where these social ills are impacting on her or him in many ways. A gambling father, gambling grandmother, lower paid worker who works at ShopRite, long hours, leaving in the morning and coming back at night with the public transport, with the issues of safety, with alcohol, to numb the difficulties of a long day and to be able to sleep with the challenges of shortage of money. All these issues are interlinked, and I think it's important that we see the problem of what it is, that this is not, it's an institutionalized a social ill such as hunger, like as people have said, so that we take the blame and the burden from the individual. Why is this person using substance? Why is this person? Because that's what corporates want. They get money from it, but they want us to take problems to an individual, to a poor person who's like, oh no, you must. They lead even in teaching us how to drink responsibly, right? They invest money and say, no, drink, just don't drink and drive. And the big problem with this alcohol syndrome. So those are the scratching of the surface that does not affect their profit, because it's highly in the Northern Cape amongst the colored population. It's not what will, but if you say use taxation so that people you reduce access, they will say no, you will lose jobs. So thank you so much. Let's grab the conversation outside. Maybe we'll also give a round. We'd like to thank the media really for coming through. It's not easy these days to spend 30 minutes having this kind of conversation because of the challenges also the media has. And I think in these partnerships with media, we must think critically about how do we also support the media agencies, not to be bought, to be covering things not on the basis of revenues, to cover things that can also save lives. So in terms of even corporations and development world such as yourself, how do we pitch media in the partnerships? Because media now start to run on the side of road on the fire burnings, and then these issues are left out in terms of being part of what society needs to hear and to galvanize society for solution. So in those ways, let's pause there, and then maybe give a round of applause for the amazing panel as well here. Oh, we also want to give some announcements. Where do we go from here? Is there after tears watching? No, I'm referring the after tears of sadness of hunger.
Maybe let me get up.
not the actual drink, the sadness of hunger. For crying after hunger, what do we do?
Colleagues, we've come to the end of our program. In a special way, thank you to all the media houses and journalists that gave off their time to be with us this morning. As we've already alluded to, this is Food Justice Week. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., we will be disturbing the peace in Soweto. In Pimville, we'll be out there in our numbers. So once again, the media is invited to come and see what we're going to be up to. But of course, we've just kick-started this conversation today. Once again, tomorrow afternoon, we want to talk about constitutional fidelity, because this is a constitutionally guaranteed, codified human right. So we want to talk to the Justice Jody Colapan tomorrow. We'll be at the Section 27 Officers Boardroom in Bromfontein. That will be taking place from 3. We should be wrapping it up at the end of the day around 4:30. And once again, just to say, there are a series of conversations and dialogues that we're embarking on throughout the week. So I've told you about tomorrow's one. Thursday morning, first thing in the morning, we also want to put a tangible perspective to this conversation, and we'll be having a breakfast dialogue with the MEC for Social Development here in Gauteng. So that's also another key conversation that we are also extending an invite to the media to. Pickets, talking to students. We are having a community outreach effort. We are wrapping up our Food Justice Week on Saturday with further discussions that are anchored around decolonizing this food system as well. Because what is key to remember is that the food system is not broken. It functions exactly as how it is intended to function. And it leaves the majority of all these lives we're trying to foreground today on the peripheries. So please, join hands, draw closer to the Union Against Hunger, and let's wrap it up in the right spirit this Food Justice Week. Mandy, is there anything else that I'm forgetting? As for him, so once again, we will as well be embarking on a picket to the Department of Agriculture. This as well will be happening on the 28th. So please be on the lookout, and let's latch on to some of these headlines that can then assist with the reporting that we anticipate from today's gathering. Folks, there's tea, there's some finger foods over there. Please help yourselves. But officially, we have closed this gathering. Thank you once again to the media. Much appreciated.
I've been so lucky because I've been going to so many different things and there's been food, so then I can come with. Today I just completely forgot the containers. And I always have containers in my bag. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.